When you're writing characters, you have to remember that they are more than just a vehicle to deliver your dialogue. Think of a character as a real-world human being. People have thoughts, feelings, preferences, goals, etc. Your characters can't just be a means to say your words. They need a personality, individuality. This is an especially easy mistake to make when you're writing comedy. So you might have some witty dialogue and great gags, but these are still being delivered by a person. Even if your play is about a non-human object like a talking carrot, the carrot still needs to have a personality. Now, actors can add a lot of personality to your characters through their performance. Actors love doing textured, interesting roles, and they'll always try to add a little bit of flair. But that said, not every actor is wonderful, and there's only so much that even the best actor can do to bring a bland character to life. So it's always best if you make the characters as interesting as you can through the writing. You're writing a 10-minute play, and let's imagine that you have 5 characters. On average, how long will each character speak if they have an equal amount of dialogue? 10 minutes divided by 5 equals 2 minutes. So how much can you really get to know someone in just 2 minutes? Can you showcase a rich, interesting character? Can you establish 5 different personalities and take them each on interesting journeys? This highlights a really interesting point, that 10 minutes is just not much time. If you want to establish a character, put them into an interesting scenario and see how they develop, that's going to be really hard to do when you have a large cast and only 10 minutes. It's going to work better if your characters or some of your characters only have minor roles, or if your play is more about the situation, like imagine a group of people stuck in an elevator, then you can get away with a larger cast. But in general, keeping the cast size a bit smaller, like 1 to 4 characters, is probably going to work better in most cases. It's really up to you, but remember that you just don't have a great deal of time to play with. If you write a novel, you can tell your readers what your characters are thinking by simply writing it out. Bill really didn't like Sue and thought she was being unreasonable, or whatever. But in theatre, characters' thoughts are not known to the audience. Characters need to be defined by their actions and their dialogue. The way they talk and how they respond to different situations is how the audience will get to know them. You can use a narrator, or you can have characters talking directly to the audience, such as this.
Sure, boss. Happy to help. I wasn't happy to help at all. I'm getting so sick of these unreasonable requests.
When your characters talk directly to the audience like I just did, it's called breaking the fourth wall. I'll talk more about this in a later lesson. But having your characters talk to the audience might not suit the style you're going for, and you might not want to use a narrator, so these techniques aren't always available. So, since you can't always tell your audience what your characters are thinking, you'll have to get it across in other ways. Subtext in your dialogue might lead your audience to infer meaning beyond the actual words themselves, or there are non-verbal performance elements like facial expressions and body language. The exercises that come along with this lesson will give you some ideas on how to develop your characters. It can be very important to develop either sympathy or antipathy towards one or more of your characters. If your audience can understand your play from a character's perspective, empathise with them, love them, hate them, then they'll become more invested in your play. Typically, if you don't care about a character, you don't care what happens to them, especially in drama. Imagine you have an aggressive character who is really hateable, and they are abusing a character who is really sweet and caring and lovable. Your audience will tend to get invested in this situation. They'll want to see the bad character lose and the good character win. Now, think about this. You're on the bus and some strangers are having a loud argument. Most of the time, you don't really care what their issue is, you just kind of want them to shut up. Well, this is the same in a play. If your audience doesn't care about your characters, they won't care about their domestic troubles. They'll just want them to shut up. So you should try to make your audience care about them first. Tell me, my friend, I'm asking, what's my life? Some writers find it useful to base a character on themselves or someone they know. This can be a good starting point. I would, however, urge you to be careful not to make the success of the play based on a character being interpreted in a very specific way. If you have your hilarious friend or favourite actor in mind when writing a character, you may find that the director or actors will interpret that character differently. Try to make a character work through their words and actions rather than having them to be exactly like Jerry Seinfeld or Captain Jack Sparrow. Remember that you know yourself and your friends way better than the actors who read your scripts. There's a risk that what is obvious to you won't come out in the script. You might also have minor characters with walk-on roles where they might only have 1 or 2 lines of dialogue. It's not necessary for characters like these to be highly developed. Even those with a few paragraphs might not need the amount of attention your principal characters get. Use your judgment to determine how much time you need to sink into fleshing them out, and whether or not the 10 pages of background detail you developed will come out if they only have a few lines. Look, okay, that's it for this video. It's time to move on to this lesson's exercises.